So before religion, we were spiritual. Our ancestors worshipped Mother Earth. They worshipped the universe, the elements. They seen their own experience, a part of this world, as sacred. They viewed love as divine. Now, because they seen life and death constantly, they put together life, death, rebirth. Because they seen women giving birth to children, they viewed it as the Mother Earth giving birth to life. Now, the first language was, well, written language, if anything, was actually little markings in cave paintings next to animals, and this was keeping tracks of seasons when animals were breeding, as this was viewed as the earth giving birth to life, as so above, so below, like God itself giving birth, or the gods. Now, the first god of which was a woman. We can see this carved in rock, in stones, in carvings of a pregnant woman. We can also see this in cave paintings, and this is because they viewed Mother Earth giving birth to life. Now, the goddess worship derived also around the use of growing cannabis, as cannabis was one of the first plants human species ever cultivated. Now, of which was used for medicine, of which then turned into goddess worship, as cannabis plants could be both masculine and feminine. So you had the dualistic concept of masculine and feminine gods. You had the belief of spirit guides that were animal and half human, which then evolved into the gods of Egypt and Mesopotamia, half human, half animal hybrids. Now, the use of psychedelics and cannabis was used in many different, every religion basically on the earth in its earlier times. Now, cannabis smoke was inhaled by the Jewish priest and even Canaanites to receive divine insights. It was used by oracles. The Gnostics argued to be even drinking it in their wine, or even smoking it or partaking of magic mushrooms. The ancient Sumerians did the same and seen the magic mushroom as the flesh of the gods. Ancient Egypt mentioned, and in Hermetic knowledge mentions, that if you know yourself, you know the gods, or to know God, know yourself. Now, again, the idea of spiritual knowledge being within is an ancient idea since the dawn of humanity and its higher intelligent way of thinking. So the idea of humanity. Now, this being said, our ancestors would have viewed life as also sacred, as harsh, as a blessing. They would have been dealing with predators, natural disasters. So the idea of love being a part of tight-knit communities, which then in turn evolved into civilization. Now, the earlier sites were religious sites where people would gather up from multiple different locations around the known world at the time, and they would gather there and trade, share information, stories. Now, in Germany, in ancient Scandinavian regions, there was one religion and one language. And in England and the Stonehenge, there was found there jewelry from Scandinavia. Now, showing that people were traveling in order to meet in these locations. Now, we worship the land, Mother Earth. We followed the stars, astrology. We seen life as sacred, as God all around us. Now, the Gnostics had this view of God as all around us, as all life itself, that we are God and one with God. Now, one of the earliest beliefs would have been ancestor worship, which also carried on with the Druids and is still found in some African regions today. Now, the idea of us passing on to the afterlife, becoming the gods, or becoming the gods' messengers, as the ideas formed as it would evolve over time. Now, the Druids viewed their ancestors as the gods, as so were the elements of nature, spirits. They didn't have any dogma, nothing written down, as they relied on oral tradition, as they believed if they could find mistakes, they could change it. And dogma was a way of controlling. Now, it's also written in stone. So the idea of dogma and religion, in turn, lost its touch with spirituality. Now, every religion has its spiritual elements. Now, this being said, our ancestors spread in their religions not just their beliefs, but their culture. So stories being told orally with deeper meanings. So this could be told around the campfire or to their children and their children to pass on life lessons. Now, the spiral paintings we see, they're argued to be the first paintings done under psychedelics. So psychedelic use, arguably magic mushrooms. Now, again, the psychedelic state put us in a state of dream time to receive divine insights, spiritual knowledge within ourselves. Meditation, you can receive divine insight, spiritual knowledge within. So this idea has always existed since the dawn of humanity. Now, our ancestors weren't stupid. The world's oldest sewing needle, which was 100,000 years old, made by the Denisovans, maybe it's a bit older, shows that our ancestors were more intelligent than what we give credit for. This was new technology at that time, just as they made the bow and the spear. Now, when they would give thanks to the animal for its sacrifice and for keeping them warm and feeding them, they also believed that it would serve a deeper purpose. It would return to the earth when we die. It would return to the earth and help the grass grow, and life in turn would go on in a cycle of reincarnation, life, death and rebirth. So this was the first belief. Now, our ancestors were big on communicating with each other, orally with stories and with acts of love, compassion, defending each other. Now, this would in turn lead to farming, to settle down. So, with these tight-knit communities, they would share their traditions, passing on from descendant to descendant. Now, as time went on, cultures would start removing the goddess elements, removing the roles of women from being priestesses. Now, this in turn would become a more male-dominated society or male-dominated religion. So the idea of the goddesses and medicine, this is rooted within the ancient practices of the then ancient humans that has passed on even orally, that has carried on even today in some religions. Now, in Christianity, we can find oral traditions that are passed on amongst Christians that aren't in the Bible. This is due to remembrance from the older versions of Christianity, as there were many different types of Christianity. Now, we had different types of Judaism, of Canaanite beliefs. Now, even the sun was viewed in ancient Egypt at the time as both masculine and femme. This was later continued on with the worship of Aten from Akhenaten, who delved through the records and found an older aspect of Ra. So this idea of duality, of us being in God's image, this is an ancient idea. So in turn, we are God. We are God experiencing itself. We are the universe experiencing itself. You are energy. I am energy. All life around us is energy. You're not separated from this energy. This energy is God. You're not separated from God. You are God. You're one with God. We all are. So peace and love, everyone. I love you all. Connect to all my mind and soul. Namaste.